Hello, my name's Dwayne. I'm the host and producer of the Discover Montcalm podcast, and today we are going to learn something about how a group covers Montcalm and Ionia counties, a place that's friendly, secure, and an environment for children. We'll get into that with Lori from I Am Safe right after these messages from our podcast supporters. We'll be right back.
We would like to thank M1063, WGLM, FM, M1063.com. West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions is your local source for managed IT, websites design and hosting. Check them out at WMTDS.com. At Business Growth Engine, Stephen and his team support businesses through automation and streamlined processes. Go to buildergrowthengine.com. DW Video transfers your home movies, slides, audio, and videotapes to digital. They produce and design websites, create business and social media videos, TV commercials, and family storytelling videos. Visit dwvideo.com to learn more. Welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we are going to look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Dwayne Weed.
Hello, and welcome back to the Discover Montcalm podcast. Today, we are going to dive into an agency that does some things with some people in some situations that I'm glad that there's people doing it and it's not me. You can catch the Discover Montcalm podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, or go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com and you can find us there. You can get the RSS feed, put it in your favorite podcast browser. But right now, I'm here with Lori. Lori, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dwayne, for having me. I appreciate it.
We have a little history.
We do.
We have a little history. You came to my students and asked for a video.
Absolutely, yes.
And before we get into learning more about you, how has that video been? Have been using it? Have people, what are they thinking about it?
We are in the process of getting it onto our website, so it hasn't been viewed by all yet.
Okay.
We are going to unveil it in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting for our security stuff to be finished before we do that. Yeah. But we're all excited about it.
That wonderful security issue with things. And we're going to get into that because in your line of work, security and confidentiality is really, really important.
Very important.
So I Am Safe is who you represent. You are the executive director, proper term?
I am, and I'm going to correct you maybe here.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'm going to say it's I'm Safe.
Okay.
So a lot of times people say I am, and then they spell it I and then A-M. So I'm Safe for
Thank you for the correction.
Sorry.
See, now when I type it into my phone, I just go I am.
Yes.
I don't even realize that I say it that way, which is fine. But I'm Safe.
Yes.
So IamSafe.com is where they can find you, correct?
IamSafe.com, yes.
All right. So for those of you that are wondering what we're talking about, let's get right into I Am Safe. What does it stand for?
Well, it's Ionia and Montcalm Secure and Friendly Environment Child Advocacy Center, and our website is the IamSafeCAC.org.
Okay, the last part.
Yes.
But if you were to search on Google for it,
you could put I'm Safe in, and then it would be one of the options that come up, correct?
Okay.
And we're the I'm Safe CAC for Child Advocacy Centers, what the CAC stands for.
All right, so now the listeners are going, okay, this is about kids.
Yeah.
What age group do you service?
So we work with children who are between the ages of 2 to 17 years of age who live in Ionia and Montcalm County, and specifically children who've been sexually abused, severely physically abused, and are human trafficked.
Like I said in my opening, I'm glad that there's people out there doing it, and it doesn't have to be me, because that takes a special person. So I'm glad that you and your team are there to, be the advocates for these people and work with them. So,
and Dwayne, we should start off too with the trigger warning that sometimes when we're talking about these things, that what we do at our center can be very traumatizing and trigger some people to have certain feelings where they need to reach out for help and services for mental health services.
Yep.
So if that's the case, I want to make sure that they know they can always reach out and talk to someone at the I'm Safe CAC, or they can contact their counselors. There's local hotlines, but I just want to make sure in case we trigger anybody with what we're talking about.
well, and that's good to know. I mean, this is your world. I know a little bit, but you've got the big picture. So whenever you can bring these things up, I think it's important to let the listeners know what is it you do. So you've kind of give us an overview. How long has the organization been in existence? When did it first start?
The I'm Safe CA opened its doors back in March of 2015. So we actually had our 10-year anniversary this year. I know,
cool.
We're going to celebrate it this fall, actually. And so that's been wonderful to have it here for 10 years. It was a big effort in the beginning to get it going with volunteers, with no donations, and we've really come a long way in those 10 years.
Okay. So because you're working what I would consider a very sensitive area.
Yes.
What is kind of your game plan with working? I'm sure you work with a lot of outside agencies, and how do you go about a typical? I don't know if it's a typical day.
Yeah.
But how does this work with all the different agencies that you work with?
I think that's a great question because I think it's important for people to understand how we get our cases. Mm-hmm. You can't just call anybody off the street and come to the I'm Safe CAC. So if a child discloses to someone, and that could be at school, a family member, it could be during a doctor's appointment, that they were sexually abused, severely physically abused, or human trafficked, then what happens is that is actually reported to DHHS or law enforcement. And then once those are reported cases, then they will contact us, the law enforcement, CPS, sometimes prosecutors, and they will actually do a referral with us to set up an interview with the child. So instead of them doing it, we do it at our center where it's child-friendly for them with a person who is specifically trained in doing the forensic protocol for children. And so the child comes to our center, they're interviewed, then they're offered services. It could be counseling services, medical. It just really depends on what is disclosed at that time. Then law enforcement, CPS still are going to continue with their investigation. It's going to be referred up eventually to law enforcement if there's any kind of criminal charges or if the child needs to be removed from family. But at the CAC, we start with the family from the beginning, from that first interview, and we stay with them till the end to make sure they get all the services they need.
And I think that would be important because they see a common face.
Yes.
Because they're going through something that they didn't ask for. And to know that they go there. And I know we have a guest here, which on the video, you can go to the YouTube channel. You can see a picture of our guest that's not pictured here. But tell me about the guest that you brought into studio with us today.
Oh, I brought in our favorite person in the world, which is our canine advocate, Alfred. And Alfred is at the CAC. His job is to greet the families when they arrive, comfort them, help with those children and their nerves they might have before they have to go back for the interview, to help them after the interviews. He can't go back with them during, but he's right there afterwards so they can pet him. He's not only helps with the children, but he helps with the adults who are going through vicarious trauma. And so he's helping them relax during that process as well. And then he works with our law enforcement, CPS. They always like to see him and relax a little too and pet Alfred.
I remember when my students and I came down to do the production with you, I was like, okay, the dog is now being bombarded by my students, and they're all
loved
loving
it.
Everybody's loving. And I remember when we actually did the shoot with Alfred. Alfred's laying on the floor, sound asleep.
Yes.
But got a tough job.
He's got a tough job that my kids just laugh. I'll send pictures through the day of him getting belly rubs. No kids are seen in the picture, but him laying on his back, getting a belly rub. And we always make jokes that what a hard job Alfred has. Yes.
So for those of you that want to see Alfred, you'll have to watch the YouTube video. I'll definitely put it up there. Right now, we don't want to interrupt the nap. And it was kind of interesting that when we got here, and I know that dogs are trained to do certain things, and I remember asking you, is it okay if I pet? And you went, no, because right now Alfred is working.
Yes.
Sits right beside you, very trained, and there's a time and a place. So when we're all done, I, too, will get to pet Alfred.
Yes, yes. And I will tell you, too, for those who don't know, Alfred came from the leader dog of the blind. He was specifically trained by them. Unfortunately, on his very last test, he made a mistake and pulled too hard because he saw another dog and wanted to go visit. So he was too social, they said.
It's playtime.
It's playtime. So they do not fail them. They career change them. So Alfred was career changed, and he took a special test, a good citizen test, which makes him a perfect therapy/victim canine advocate. So that's how we got Alfred at our center.
Okay. And just for fun, and like you're told not to ask something, and then you go ahead and ask it. But I'm going to ask you, I know that your mission statement is pretty lengthy, but can you kind of sum it up?
Absolutely. We're here to protect children, and we do that by doing a coordinated effort of investigation, assessments, of follow-through with our MDT, and we do that all in an environment that's child-friendly and sensitive. That's our mission.
And I know that you get support from different areas, and that, but it's probably not enough support. Without donations, you probably can't do it all. So talk to us about where the money comes from, and if somebody's hearing this and wants to support you, how they go about that.
Absolutely. Right now, we've been very fortunate that about 70% of our funds come from state and federal grants. The other 30% we get from donations, from private donations from Montcalm and Ionia County, from businesses, individuals. And so it's been a little scary time for us, I'll say right now. Not too long ago, we had a person indicate that they were going to stop those federal grants, and we got a little scared. But luckily, legislators came back and renewed it, and so we were able to keep our grants. And so it's kind of a scary time, because without those grants, we would really have a hard time providing those services to our children and families. We currently provide services free of charge. There's no charge to them, but it costs about $2,500 per child to come through and get all the services they need. And so we really count on our fundraisers. We have 3 main fundraisers that we do a year, and that makes up the difference of the grants. Also, the grants do require a 20% match, and so we have to come up with that as well. And so we're so lucky to have such a great community that has come together with donations and support in many different ways. And so we have 3 actual, as I indicated, fundraisers, and the one that is coming up right away here is next week, Champions for Children Luncheon.
So let's, because I don't know when this podcast is going out.
Okay.
You have 3 of them. Are they like certain times of the year?
They are.
So can you kind of give us, start at the beginning of the year and work our way through?
Absolutely. So every year in February, we have our Start by Believing dinner and reverse raffle. And so that takes place in Ionia. In April, that's Child Abuse Awareness Month. And so at that time, we have our special Champions for Children luncheon. And so that's always the last Friday in April. And then our final one is our golf outing coming up in August. And so we always do that the first Friday in August every year. And again, it's a fantastic way to raise money, and we get a lot of donations and sponsors, and that's what supports us and gets us through. Most of our money goes for staff. So we're not talking about it's all administrative costs for staffing.
Because you have to have the counselors, you have
to have
the different
those,
people that do different things. Can you give us kind of an overview of some of the stats that, I guess in one's mind, okay, how many people do you serve and blah, blah, blah. That's important. But on average, because I'm sure it changes year to year.
It does.
And I hope, does it go up every year?
Well, I'll tell you, last year we had 210 children that received services at our center. Since we opened our doors in 2015, we have provided services to over 2,600 children. So that's about 250 on average a year. It does go up and down. COVID years, it went way down, and then it came back up again after COVID. So it does fluctuate. You're right. Yes.
One might think 2 different ways. That's a lot, or that doesn't seem like much. I think in the area that you're in, 1 is too many.
Correct.
1 is too many. So, the fact that you're there, and you have to keep it in perspective, this is a 2-county area. You're covering, basically 2 counties in what you're doing. So, my hat goes off to you for all the work that you do. I know there's a lot of wonderful agencies all over the county that are doing things, and this is just one of them. And, you know, you talked about that there's a protocol on what they can do. If, you know, push comes to shove, if somebody calls you without going through the protocol, you're going to put them in touch with the people they need to be with.
Absolutely.
You know, so, you know, even if you don't remember what the protocol is, I am safe. CCC.
Yes. It's not uncommon that we get calls from people just asking for interviews, and then we get them to the right people so that they can get in correctly. Yes.
Well, and you're that stepping stone, you know, whether they're, you know, going through the system and coming to you, or they need to be in this system, and you can say, okay, here's where we're going to put you. You know, don't be afraid to call. You know, and by that way, what is your phone number?
So our phone number is 616-225-7267.
One more time?
225-7267.
Okay.
And that gets you directly to the front desk of the I'm Safe CAC.
Okay. Where are you physically located?
We are located at 10260 South Sheridan Road, and that's in Fenwick, Michigan.
Yeah. Just south of the M57. M66.
2 miles right over the county line there into Montcalm County.
Yeah, we didn't have a big bus ride going to help you, which was good. You also, I see here that you also have a Facebook page. It's I Am Safe Child Advocacy Center. You just type that in.
All one word, yep, and it comes up on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm noticing here you got some good supporters as we go down through here. Just trying to, I mean, you've got.
I want to talk about our partners.
Would you please? Because
Can I? Yeah, because
yes.
I know you're looking at there all these people we
Yes.
work with, and we would not be where we are today without all the partners that we work with. So back in 2015, when this was founded, it was a collaboration between Ionia and Montcalm County. At that time, it was Andrea Krause was the prosecutor, and Ron Schaefer was the prosecutor for Ionia County. They worked together to establish and found this CAC, and so we didn't have any money. Montcalm or Ionia didn't have any money. Shocker. But we knew we needed these services for the children. I was a chief assistant prosecutor at the time, and the kids who would come in to work with me on those cases were not ready and prepared to go forward with court. Many of them had been suicidal, had been cutting, needed to get to mental health services. And so we knew we needed to change the focus of our cases. It can't be about what exactly does law enforcement want, what does CPS want, what does medical. We need to talk about what's the best interest of the child. And so instead of making children be interviewed multiple times, which is what was happening prior to us having a child advocacy center, they'd be sent to law enforcement, interviewed, then CPS interviewed, go to medical, be interviewed. They'd have to come talk to me at the prosecutor's office.
That was probably stressful.
Oh, very stressful. Think about the trauma of that child having to tell their story of what happened to them multiple times to people they do not know. And so the CAC takes that away, and they are a one-stop basically place. So you come in, you do one interview, law enforcement, CPS, prosecutor, they can all be there to view that interview at that time and ask questions. We have a little room that's set up for the child to be interviewed
And
in.
that was kind of what the video was about that we did for you. Because, you know, the thing that I noticed, and you mentioned this, they're being interviewed once. When they come in, all of the counselors, law enforcement, et cetera, come in a totally different door. So the child and the family never see the people that are there to hear and watch, which I think is very, I mean, there's no threat. You know, they see the dog, they see Alfred, but they don't see.
And they see
that.
our staff, our friendly staff.
Yep.
But yeah.
But it's like they're not seeing the people that are there, you know, and I think that is, I think that's really cool because it takes away that other stress.
Right.
And now they're talking to one person, even though there's people behind the glass or there's a video camera and they're listening on headphones. It gives that calming effect.
Absolutely.
I would hope.
That's our goal, is to reduce trauma to children. And so by doing so, you never know how a family's going to respond to seeing a person, a law enforcement officer in a uniform or a DHS worker, CPS. That can be scary for some of them, worried about, oh my gosh, is someone going to remove me from my household? What's happening here? So by having those partners go through that back door, enter in the back way and not be seen, it helps us to get a better interview, a more accurate one, and then one that's also less traumatic to the child. So absolutely, that's our goal. And you're correct, it would be the prosecutor, CPS, or it could be law enforcement that are viewing it through that closed circuit TV. And so they're still able to ask questions and get everything they need for their cases, whatever they're doing with their investigations. But then the child doesn't know it, and it's less traumatic. So
I think less traumatic is the key.
It is.
Right there. Because that's a situation that nobody wanted. So you offer that. There are some other services, counseling services that you offer through your organization, and some medical service. Talk about that a little bit.
We have a family advocate that works at the Child Advocacy Center, and they meet with every family that comes to the center. They're also the handler for Alfred, so they control him when he's there. They meet with them during the child's interview, and they go over resources. There could be a lot of factors of things that are happening at the time. If a perpetrator is, let's say, mom's boyfriend or stepdad, you're talking about someone might have to move out of the house. And so sometimes that winds up being the mom with the child. They choose to leave, and now they've got to find housing. So we could be looking at temporary housing for them. There could be personal protection orders that need to be put in place, and we're helping talk them through that. You're correct. We're also referring them through for mental health services, for counseling. And then we also refer them for medical. If there's any kind of touching that takes place under the clothing, they've got to be sent for a medical exam to make sure that they're getting everything addressed that possibly could have happened to them. And so our family advocate works for them from that day till the end again. She's always calling them and contacting them and saying, what else can I do? How can we help? Sometimes they might need clothes or different things, if it's diapers for babies or formula. So we have what's called Alfred's Corner. And Alfred's Corner offers a variety of supplies, from diapers to clothing to shoes. It could be some food items there. It's like a pantry with, if they need things like toothbrushes, if they're going somewhere else, and deodorant and hairspray or shampoo.
Some of the necessities.
The basic necessities. And so we keep that there so that when families come in, if they need those items, we can give that to them at that time or later if needed, depending on what's happening in their circumstance.
I'm going to turn it personal for a minute.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your path growing up to what made you think that this was the direction that was this the goal the whole time, or did you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Boy, not at all. I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
Teachers are fantastic. And I always wanted to be a teacher. But when I got into college, it changed. I decided I wanted to become a lawyer.
Okay.
And specifically, I wanted to be a prosecutor. So I did go to law school. And then I got my first job with the Ionia County Prosecutor's Office. Slowly worked my way up to the Chief Assistant Prosecutor. But in that position, I was handling all the crimes dealing with people who were child abuse, sexual abuse, any of those cases like that. And as such, I was seeing that we really just were doing a disservice to kids. And it's very, it's a hard job. Any of those jobs that law enforcement, CPS, prosecutors are doing, it's hard because we deal with vicarious trauma too, of the stress of what's happening to these kids and hearing their stories. And so I just knew that we needed to change that system of how we were dealing with those children. And I started to see these things called child advocacy centers. There was one in Kent County and one in Ottawa. And so I was like, well, what's that? And we learned about that. And we had some cases in Ionia that actually had gone through their centers. Okay. But we wound up prosecuting them. And I could see there was a difference in those families and those children and how they were being dealt with and getting the services they needed. So we knew then, we want to get one of those here. And so that's what started that. And I developed quite a passion and helped in getting this off the ground as well as one of the founding members. Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure we were changing because So many of the cases that go through the criminal cases through prosecution, you're talking maybe only 85% of them could actually be prosecuted.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are he said, she said cases. There's no physical evidence. And so unfortunately, that means there's a large amount of them that get denied at the prosecutors, and then I don't see those again. But what happens to those children? It doesn't end for them. They still need the services. They still need the counseling. They still need the support. And we were missing that. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that we were addressing those other ones that weren't prosecuted, and making sure everybody had that special treatment, so to speak, and was equal with that.
So what I'm hearing, this was kind of your brainchild.
I will say I was pushing behind the scene, yes.
You had it, and then it takes a village, as they say, to make something happen.
It does.
Once you had it, you started talking to people, and do you know what
I want to give credit, though, first of all. Jackie
Please.
Stasiak, detective with the Michigan State Police. She also worked these types of cases all the time. And so they had tried to get it off, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 years before we opened our doors in 2015. It was another prosecutor there at the time, and it just didn't quite take off. And Jackie Stasiak came to me back in 2014 and said, Lori, we need this. What can we do? Can we partner together and figure this out? And I'm like, all right, Jackie, we're on it. We're doing it. And so that's
Game on.
Yeah, she was right there with me in the thick of things, trying to get this going and talking to people. And so she was fantastic as well. I want to make sure to give her a shout out as well. She's still on our board today, even though she's retired from the Michigan State Police. So yes.
When you work on something like that, you kind of want to see it through. You kind of want to see where it goes, and it's hard to give up something. So I can see why she's still involved today, because it's doing good. It's doing good in situations that are not good. As we wrap things up, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to, say, hey, I'd like to add this as I knock over my drink?
I do want to point out that the other partners, the first 2 years that we opened from 2015 to 17, we didn't have any funds. So we worked with law enforcement, CPS, the prosecutor's office. Every person donated one volunteer. The officers say, I was voluntold, Lori, to get specifically trained to work as a CAC volunteer for the first 2 years.
Okay.
So Belding, the Right Door for Recovery, gave us the first office, which was actually in Belding. It was a small 2 rooms, but that's where we started back in March. We quickly outgrew that, and then MISD came in and said, hey, we got this building over on Sheridan Rd if you're interested in looking at. And that's why we moved over there, because we thought, we are growing too fast.
Right.
And we needed it to be central. And so that was the perfect place, right, for Ionia and Montcalm County. But for those 2 years straight, we had 18 volunteers who donated their time to do interviews, to help with intakes, to provide victim services. Rave did that for us free of charge until we could become accredited and get that funding and get to where we are today.
It also gave you that test run.
Oh, absolutely.
To also say, yes, it was an idea, but we need this, and here's the people that are putting it together. So, I guess salute to all those volunteers in the beginning that kind of help it get off the ground. So, my last question, I know you're from Grand Rapids. You work in the Ionia and Montcalm area. Because it's Discover Montcalm, in your mind, what about Montcalm County do you like? Is there something that kind of sticks out to you? And I know that sometimes we get caught in our path back and forth in our drive, but, what is it about Montcalm County that you like?
I will say I love the people. I mean, people are great in Ionia and they're great in Grand Rapids, but boy, up here in Montcalm County, they are special. They are dedicated individuals who go above and beyond to really help out and make it feel like you're in this small community and you know everybody. And they take every one of these cases and think of them as that could be my child, and I want to make sure they get everything they need. And so that passion trickles down to everybody in this county, and I love that. And you don't see that in every county. And so that's what makes Montcalm so fantastic, is all the people here.
Well, in closing, can you again tell us the contact information, your phone number, website address again?
Sure. So the I'm Safe CAC is located at 10260 South Sheridan Road in Fenwick, Michigan. You can call our offices at 616-225-7265 or 67. Either one will get you through. And then we have our website, www.imsafecac.org. We have an email, which is imsafecac@gmail.com. So if you want to email us, you can. That would be fine too as well.
And I realized that when I said it earlier, I think I said .com.
Yes. So
But
it's .org.
Well, for those of you that are watching it on YouTube, it'll be correct on the title slide.
Yeah.
So,
and then we have the Facebook, like you said.
And then Facebook. Thank you so much for taking some time to come up, and good luck on your
Thank you for having
donation
us.
events. And, I'm glad that, as I said, that there's people like you doing things that I don't ever want to get involved with. I mean, I'm glad, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
know.
It's sad we have to have it, but glad we do have it here in Montcalm and Ionia County.
And I'm glad that there's people, and everybody that we met down on the video shoot, super nice, very.
I have a
can
great
tell
staff.
that they have a passion for what's going on. So
They do.
I'm Dwayne, your host and producer of the Discover Montcalm podcast. Go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com. You can check out all our socials. You can check out where you can find us in the podcast world. You can Google us. We're everywhere. And if not, just look for Dwayne Weed on Google. You're going to find me. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember to buy and shop locally.
Connect and follow the Discover Montcalm podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Check out all our episodes at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. We look forward to featuring your business, community, nonprofit, events, and more. Contact Dwayne at 231-250-9624, 231-250-9624. Thank you for tuning in and following the Discover Montcalm podcast.